Well, hey everybody, this is Mac coming to you from lockdown in Charleston, South Carolina. I hope you and your family are doing well. We're doing our best to stay healthy and stay well, just like everybody else out there. But hey, I want to talk to you about the innovation opportunity that we have as churches. I've been talking to pastors around the country this past week, and I'm loving hearing some of the innovative ideas, creative ways they're staying in touch with their people and innovating new ministries and new ways to connect. And so here's what I'm telling them. I said, here's the good news about this whole situation. The good news is it's forcing us as the church to think innovatively. We're forced to think innovatively. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Many churches are taking what they do, instead of thinking outside the box, they take what they do inside the box on Sunday morning and move it to an online platform and call that innovation when it's really not. We're just taking what we do on Sunday morning and do it online. And we just cannot expect that to work. I know for me, when I'm online, I'm multitasking. When I'm online, my brain is telling me to do things in short segments. So to do a church service online is a challenge. And so here's what I'm talking to the pastors I've been talking with. 3 things that you have to monitor. 3 things you have to monitor in this season, because there are 3 things that are at risk during this season. Number 1 is a decrease in engagement. Second is a decrease in community, and a decrease in serving among your church. So let's look at all 3 of these, okay? First, there's the threat of a decreased engagement. What is engagement? Engagement is how people are engaging with your church as a whole. Not their small groups, but how are they engaging with the church as a whole? If we're simply taking church, what we do on Sunday morning, and put it online for an hour on Sunday morning and expect people to be just as engaged, then we're going to be disappointed. I talked to one pastor this week. He said the average watch time on his Sunday morning service this past week, when they went all online, was 22 minutes. 22 minutes. People were engaged on average for 22 minutes. And so we need to rethink, what does engagement look like? I'm loving seeing so many pastors out there. They're doing Facebook Live, Instagram Live almost daily to talk to their people, to stay engaged with their people. Another thing I'm seeing churches do is they're telling stories of what their people are doing. And so people are going, oh, wow, our church is doing that. That's incredible. And that's keeping them engaged. But whatever you do, whatever you innovate, ask yourself the question, how can we see engagement in our church increased rather than decreased? Second area that's at threat is community. Community can decrease. People are no longer meeting in homes. They're not meeting in small groups. And so how do we increase community in this stage? Because you can't do the Christian life alone. Christian life is intended to be done in community. And so I love this. I'm seeing churches. I had one church cancel a meeting with me because that day they were planning how to launch online small groups. Now, hey, those may not last forever for many of you, but for some it will. It may be a solution that carries into the future to help people get better connected in spiritual community. So how are you going to increase a sense of community among your church and discipleship in your church in this season? How are you going to innovate it so that community goes up, not down? I heard one church or several churches actually, who are creating discipleship materials that parents can use to disciple their kids during this season. I love that, because that's deepening a sense of connection and community among a family. So how are you going to do that? Third, serving. Serving's a threat. Serving can go down instead of up in this season. And so I love these churches. There's one church here in Charleston who said, hey, we want to mobilize watch parties. And so gather no more than 10 people in your home and watch what we're doing online, things like that. Other churches are mobilizing. There's so many kids who are not getting school meals now. So they're mobilizing people to take food to these families that are dependent on the school system, that meals that are provided. So there's so many ways we can serve. Heard of another church that challenged their people. This church is trying to measure how many miles is their church prayer walking among all their people. So they're challenging people. Prayer walk your neighborhood. Tell us how many miles you prayer walked, and our goal is to hit 1,000. That is so cool to see these types of things. So those are 3 things that are a threat in this season. We're forced to innovate, but as we innovate, make sure that you're increasing engagement, increasing community, and increasing serving of your people. Don't just take what you're doing on Sunday, what you typically do on Sunday morning, and throw it online and call that innovation, all right? Now, let me leave you with 4 questions. 4 questions that we need to be thinking through. Question number 1. When things return to normal, what will you change about the way you're discipling people? When your schedule gets back to the typical schedule, what are you going to change in the way you disciple people to better prepare them for next time this happens? Question number 2, what innovations are you what innovations are you doing right now that you can carry over so that it becomes a new reality? It's not just innovating for this season and then, oh, okay, that's over. Well, let's go totally back to normal. What are you innovating? One of the things I'm hearing, I love this, and I'll talk more about this in tomorrow's video, but churches are reaching out to the Gen Z and Gen X and going, hey, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? And involving them in serving and coming up with solutions. I love that. So carry over some of these innovations. Question number 3, how are you going to capitalize on this season to help the people in your church redefine what church is, redefine what worship is, and redefine what discipleship is? This is a huge opportunity where we don't want to miss this opportunity. If we're not careful, we're just going to continue teaching people in our approach to have a consumeristic mindset about church. We need to utilize and capitalize on this season to redefine what church really is, to redefine what worship is. If we're just doing worship online and doing 3 to 5 songs online and say, hey, join us for this worship, and that's all we're doing with worship, then we're missing the opportunity to redefine what worship is. Do a facilitated experience on Sunday morning that maybe only lasts 30 minutes, but part of that facilitated experience is telling people, say, hey, would you take 2 minutes? We're going to play some soft music. And as we do, would you get on your knees in a posture of prayer and just praise God for some aspect of his character? Do some things like that. Define worship and what are different expressions of worship, and how can you facilitate that through your online service to engage people in other forms of worship other than just singing. And then the last question is this: how are you going to develop the leaders that you discover in this season? How are you going to develop the leaders that you discover in this season? Because crisis causes people to step up, which means we are going to discover more leaders in this season. People are stepping up and say, hey, you can use my home. I'll use my home. I'll invite people over with. Yeah, I'll do a small group in my home. This is a huge opportunity for the church to expand the gospel by starting house churches and micro churches. Don't miss this opportunity. People are going to step up and possibly discover how they can utilize and capitalize on their life and live in more of a missional fashion to reach their community and reach their neighborhood. So if many people are stepping up, how are we going to develop them as leaders to do the thing that God's calling them to do in this new season and in this new reality? So, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I love innovation. And so it's going to be fun to see what people are coming up with, young and old. Let's just keep on encouraging each other through this season and innovating in this season to see what God is calling us to do. What are the new realities, the new ways that we can live on mission and mobilize people to change the world for Christ's sake and expand the gospel throughout our communities. All right, thanks for joining me, guys.